Hello and welcome to Quarterlight, your car brochure channel, and in today's episode, we're going to wrap this one up, continue looking at the March 1987 full range brochure for Ford, and we kind of touched on the February version as well, but we're going to wrap this one up, answer a few of the questions about the Scorpio that we got last week, maybe pick our favourite model from this brochure, and then we can move on next week with some new stuff, and we can have a little bit of a chat about that as well. So let's start the intro and then we'll dive into it. Okay, so I was looking at this, like I say, March 1987 Ford brochure. Then we got to the end, we were looking at the Granadas, and of course subsequently the top of the range Granadas, badges the Granada Scorpio in the UK. We found out they're a very expensive car for their time, and this was last week. So I said if there's any questions, any little points you want me to pick out, then I'll do a bit of a roundup on this final episode. And there were a few little points, not many, but a few, but we'll pick those out. We'll look at the options you can get for these Granadas and Scorpios back in 1987, and then we'll maybe just scan over a few things, pick our favourite model or my favourite model, and then you can comment which is yours. So let's dive straight into it. It probably won't be a very long episode, this one, but I wanted to do a little bit of a wrap up, so let's do that now. So the Scorpio Executive 4x4, so it's like the flagship models with that love it or hate it little bit of a baggy looking leather seats. I said last week I wasn't a huge fan. I mean, that's nothing against people who loved these seats. I always preferred a cloth seat, and I was never a big fan of the Ford leather seats. Just, I don't know, the overall look they gave. But no doubt, I'm sure when you climbed in one of these in 1987, you immediately thought, the person who had this car was obviously doing very well indeed. One of the points I missed, and one of the points one of our viewers picked out, and I love how some viewers, you find they comment all the time, and then they've all of a sudden got something they are very knowledgeable on one model, and that's really nice about having viewers, is we get these knowledgeable viewers for a model, and then you pick out things and you kind of learn things you didn't know yourself. One of the things was back here on the rear seat. I'm sure you can just about make that out, but I will point it. You can see we've got a couple of electric switches there. And this is the rear seat, which is what is interesting. So kind of like unique to the Scorpios, this electrically tilted rear seat. So the upper part tilted. Very interesting really for this year, 1987. That's very unusual to have an electric tilted rear seat. Like I say, just for the Scorpio, I mean, you can notice on the front seats, yeah, that's kind of like your more common sort of, apologies for all the reflections, you can just about make out that too. So the front seats, obviously electric, but I thought I'd point that out, and thank you for pointing that out, Stuart. That is quite an unusual feature for the time, having that tilted rear seat, so I did want to mention that. And then if I move back to the specifications, which we didn't touch at last week at all, we can see here where it's telling you about that electrically operated rear seat back rake adjustment. Most models didn't get it, as you can see, but if I move the camera along, we can see the top two models that did. And when we're saying the top two models, that's the Scorpio and Scorpio Executive. Like I said, a very unusual feature for the time. Other features the Scorpio models had over the standard Granadas, and that's even above the Granada gear, is this too as well, the headlamp wash. So we got headlamp wash on the Scorpios as well. And the other little bit I just wanted to do on this for Friday, just to wrap this up, like I say, probably just a short episode, just to close this one down. The Granada and Scorpio option guide. I like the option guides because they're sort of things and features you didn't really find on the standard model, so possibly would be quite surprising if you had a vehicle that had some of these optional extras. The average Granada or Scorpio owner may not particularly know about that. And remember, in the last two columns are the Scorpio and Scorpio Executive, so I'm just going to pick the features that I think is a little bit unusual and the features that have been pointed out by viewers. So, graphic equalizer, £179.25. Looks like that was an option for the Granada Ghia Scorpio and Scorpio Executive, which I'm surprised in a way that the graphic equalizer wasn't in there. The other thing what I thought was quite surprising, and this is a feature that somebody did point out and was on their Scorpio model when they were younger, which is an unusual feature. The rear compartment control with two headphones, £127.19 for your Scorpio and Scorpio Executive. What an interesting feature for a young person to have in the back of their car. So I wonder how many of them were spec'd with that particular feature. Other interesting things, I think, and I always find colours very interesting, but black paint at the time was always a little bit more expensive, £109.10. Metallic, an extra £161.91. The thing that I thought was surprising really is some models, some manufacturers actually made them sorts of things standard on the top model, but not here. Exactly the same price as if you was buying your lowly Granada L. And I've said it before, I think the Granada L was, if you was looking for a bit of a bargain, that was probably the one to go for. And then of course you had all the warranties that you could throw on the end of there as well. And then there's this little interesting page showing the tailor-made optional quality accessories, it tells us, for the new Sierra Sapphire, Sierra or Sierra Estate. Remember, at this time, this is when they just updated the Sierra and brought out that Sierra Sapphire, the Sierra with a boot. So there was kind of like featuring these because this is your new model, and straight away they had the options ready for you to spend that little bit more money. Some of them quite forgettable options, like a little net to tie things down and little bits of mats, etc. Some were a little bit more unusual, like this, a little bit of an extra aero piece on there, which is a little bit unusual. And then this one's demonstrating like the full skirts package. I was never a huge fan of these, if I can clear that picture up a bit. There we go, that's a little bit better. What I was saying, I was never really a fan of all these skirts and extra bits for the bumpers for these models. It's very much of its time, but I didn't like it then, I don't like it now, but that's very much a personal thing. What I do like though is these RS alloy wheels, which do look quite nice. It's also showing a little bit of a rear spoiler in the same colour as the body as well. You can also get the RS steering wheel, which kind of looks a little bit bland, I think. There is that RS alloy wheel, and it's kind of like demonstrating you get that sort of treatment as well with the extra sort of body kit on there for the new Sierra Sapphire as well, showcasing those alloy wheels as well. We can get this little bit of a boot spoiler as well, shown here on the Sierra Sapphire. This is obviously the black version, although they did have one that you could paint to the body colour as well. Looks like we could get in sort of roof bars for your Sierra Estate, as well as the usual sort of kit for adding different things on what must be some kind of Ford roof rack system. Obviously, this was a time when, you know, the gutters of cars were kind of like disappearing, so they had to have more like specialised roof racks to pop in that sort of like black area instead, which was certainly a big move. Sort of like early 80s, we still had like gutters on cars, so that was a bit of a move away from that. And then obviously you have different accessories to tie different things on. Just remember, you've got a bicycle on your roof when you're moving into your garage. Car seats, of course, for the kids or kids seats. Thankfully, these have got a little bit safer over the years. We can also get various different lights for the front end. Sun blinds, tow bars. guess this is showing you the version that you can actually paint to the same colour as the car on the hatchback. And then we've got quite a snazzy looking version of the Estate with those alloy wheels and the body kit. Like I said, I was never a huge fan of the body kit personally, but you know, I'm sure a lot of people really like these, and then you can get even more accessories. It's telling you you get an accessories book, but I thought I'd show you that because it's very much period accessories. Oh, just double back, I missed the car phone there. That really dates things, doesn't it? I wonder how many people had the car phone like that in your Sierra. So that takes me to the end of this brochure. What car are we going to pick now for the best car, or the best car, Ford car in this brochure in March 1987? Remember when this came out? Capri gone, of course. So what we're going to pick, I always had a soft spot for the XR2. I was thinking about a small car. I don't know, it wasn't particularly fast or anything, but it was very much of its time. And I think I preferred it over the XR3 actually, for some reason that I can't possibly explain. I'm sure some people like the Orion gear injection, sort of like your booted version of an XR3, which wasn't quite as showy. I know a lot of people like those. I'm struggling. What would I pick as my favourite? I'm tempted with the Sierra Sapphire, but that's more of a personal thing because I have got history with the Sierra Sapphire. And if I had to pick a Sierra Sapphire, it'd probably be the GLS version. The only thing sadly lacking alloy wheels. We just got these sort of wheel trims which try to look like alloy wheels, but I always found that was an interesting model with the 2-litre EFI engine. Wasn't rapid, but you could certainly say it was quite lively for the time. So I think this is my pick of the brochure. I think closely followed by like a Granada L. I know I keep mentioning that. I know it didn't have much equipment on it, but I think it was a little bit of a bargain when you look at the prices of those Scorpios. Let me know which is your favourite from this particular brochure though. And that is your Granada L. I think you'd have to have the 2-litre though. I think the 1.8 was a little bit small for the Granada, but that probably would have been my second choice, and not too dissimilar in price between that and a Sierra GLS actually. But anyway, like I say, tell me which models you would have picked from your brochure. That does conclude this particular brochure review. If you missed any of this brochure, of course, I will do a link to all the episodes at the end of this episode. If you're new to Quarterlight, please do consider subscribing. Bit of a strange episode to join on, but like I say, if you are, please do consider subscribing. It is all completely free. This is kind of like the end of the strange hours, the strange episodes really over the Christmas period. Really, we've been doing 2 episodes a week for the last few weeks. Next week we'll try to increase that. I think probably 3 episodes next week as I try and get back into producing these videos again, and then we'll see where we go. Next week, what we kind of like tend to call Take 2 Tuesday, which is looking at an older episode. We'll move that to Monday just to balance things out. We'll probably do 3 episodes next week, and then on Wednesday we'll start a new brochure, and then Friday we'll start a new brochure as well for Ford Friday. But thank you so much for watching today. Thank you as always to all the regular viewers and those who mentioned little points in the brochure to have a look at. Please do take care. We'll see you very soon, and goodbye.